Hello, dear one. I know that shadow work is not something that most people want to engage in. It's kind of something we want to keep in the shadows. That's why it's called shadow work. But it is a very, very important part of our journey towards waking up, maybe enlightenment, whatever we call it. And it needs to be addressed. And it's so funny. It's kind of been in my field lately with people, clients, friends, um, neighbors, where I really see, I usually just feel, sense, see what's going on. I usually don't pay too much attention to the words or the story, but I feel more like the whole picture. And you may feel that same way if you are a light worker. You're just more tuned in to the field than maybe to the density. But anyway, there was a friend, and she has a tendency to start almost every sentence. Not no, that's not true. Every time we engage, the first thing that will come out of her mouth is, "It's been really hard." If I say, like, "How was your day?" It was really hard. Or "How did it go?" It was really hard. And it's just always there. And we had an interaction today where she was kind of sharing something about what's going on with her minds and the thoughts and whatever. And and really trying to separate it all. And then she says, "And it's really hard." And in that moment, it just came out of me because I'm not here to confront people with their unconscious patterns unless, they come to me, like my clients. That's why you come to see me. And sometimes people may ask for it, and but that's different than just, laying it on them. So anyway, but it just came out of our mouth and said, well, maybe you can also let go of that one. Because the conversation was about, recognizing what thought patterns were still kind of trying to intrude into her life. So I said, what about, can you also just do that with the one that says it's really hard? And she paused and she says, "I didn't know that I do that." And this is how it is, my friends. This is how it is. These little sneaky thoughts, these sneaky programmings, they're just in there and they do us unconsciously. They do us. They run our lives. They run our mind. They have an impact on how we live our lives, how we think, how we talk. Like, it's really hard. It all comes from that programming. And I think it was a little bit of a revelation to her to see that. That was like, wow, I didn't know I did that. And it was so innocent and so pure, and there was no judgment or making her wrong on my end. It was just like, hey, if you're doing that, why don't you kick that one out too? So it was kind of funny too. We laughed a little bit about it. But this is so common in all of us, and everybody is under that blanket of the programming where we live our lives, where we do things, we say things, we think things, we act in certain ways. And it's all coming from that unconscious programming. And in a way, it's sad that we don't even know that we do it. So that's how identified we are with those thought patterns, that we don't have that little gap where we can go, "Oh, I'm doing that," and then when there's a gap, you have a choice. So for my friend now, I know she's going to be able to go like, oops, she might still say it out of just habit, but she's going to catch herself and say, "Oops, I said it." And then you can pause and you can say, "Oh, I don't really think that's true because you also realize to say that's actually not true, that it's not always hard. There's a lot of different other options. And so why am I keep saying, it's so hard? So it was a big revelation. And I think it is for most of us when we really get hold of these thought patterns that just do their thing 24/7. And that is, of course, what we would call shadow work, right? It's all happening in the shadows because we are not shining our light of awareness on it. We are just pulled in by it, don't even know it. And it also reminds me, I remember this is many, many years ago when my mom was still alive. And I went to visit in Denmark, and my sister came to visit. She lives elsewhere too. And my mom had a tendency to get angry or irritated, and she had run one of those programs. And then my sister said to her, I think, oh yeah, she was angry at me. She was really unloading. And then my sister said to her, well, after I was not in the room, she says, do you know you're angry at Pernilla? And my mom said, no. Was I angry? And I was like, whoa, because my sister told me. And I'm like, wow, she doesn't even know that she's angry. Just think about that, my friends. This is how we live. We are just in this woo, just swirling around in the programs. We have no clue what we're doing. And of course, I see this a lot in my work where I can help people because they come in, maybe with yeah, let's say with a lot of resistance, and you work with them and there's this like well, where my curiosity goes is who is this who is this one that has all this resistance? And then we do some deeper work. We get curious about it, we connect with that part, and we try and help it out of whatever it feels stuck in. And I also, this is also recently, I had a client who uh, came in with an immense amount of skepticism, and this client didn't know about it. And of course, for me, it's like it's glaring at me, right? So we worked with that, and I just brought some attention to that part, and we worked with that. And then when this client came back a week later, it was like this person had completely transformed. Now, I don't see this often. This is not the norm, but it was like, what? And this client said that realizing, had never realized this skeptic part, even though the client had done a lot of work for a long time, a lot of years, but had somehow missed this part, this skeptical part. And my client said that this made them realize that the reason there was so much anger a lot of the time was because of this skeptical part, was skeptical of everybody, and that made this person angry. So just by uncovering it, it was like, whoa. And then of course there is the new choice. And it was quite amazing for me to watch that. Like, can you change that much in 1 week? And of course we can, but we do have to keep it alive. It's like when the neural pathways are firing and wiring together, you have an insight and you go, whoa. And then you really need to work on creating new neural pathways so you don't go back to the default. Because if we don't do the work to create new neural pathways, we automatically go back to the old wiring because it's just so familiar, right? If there's nothing else to grab onto, it's like, whoops, I just go back. So this is why shadow work can be very challenging for many reasons, but one is we have no clue what we're doing. And that's why it's very helpful to have an external guide or friend or therapist that can help you see what you can't see yourself. And so one thing is we may not even know it, but underneath we kind of know it because we're resisting it. right? We are resisting our shadows. So there is a part of us that does know it's there. But unconsciously, again, we do resist it so that there is the resistance and it's covered with another layer of resistance. But what happens then when you are able to see it, and I think it's really important to shine light on these parts with a lot of safety and kindness. The last thing these shadow pieces need is some kind of a criticism or shame or judgment, right? Then they'll just go. So these parts need to be met with an open curiosity. So there isn't a sense of blame or shame in it. And then that can ignite curiosity in the client or the person or the whatever we're talking about. That can ignite a curiosity where you can go, that's interesting. And then you can start unraveling it more and start seeing how that is impacting most of your life. So this is very, very, very common. And that's why the world is the way it is, because most people don't even know what they're doing. So maybe all the politicians that you're really angry at, they probably have no clue what they're doing. So save your anger and instead maybe turn it around and be curious about this anger that you are exuding, right? Or this righteousness that you may not be aware that you're doing. Just as my friend wasn't aware of, like, oh, it's really hard. You might just not be aware that you are angry at people seeing things differently than you or something. It's just an automatic thing that happens. And trust me when I say that there is no blame or judgment in it. There is just an unraveling and a shining light on something that we all do. I include myself. I've had so many revelations, so many insights over the many years um, by seeking help, by helping somebody see what I can't see myself. And I think the way the world is now and what we're going through, I think it's super important that we take that time to have somebody reflect it back to us what they're experiencing. We have to let them know that we are open to feedback. Let's say somebody is upset with you and you don't know why. You can just pull back and say, I don't want to deal with that. Or you could say something like, I noticed that, you're talking to me in this way and I'm not sure what's going on. Is there anything that I'm not aware of? The way maybe I have talked to you or done something that I'm not conscious of. I'm very open to you sharing that with me. If you can do it in a kind way, that's it helps, right? We can't always do that, but if we can, it's very helpful for the other person to receive it. So we don't feel it like a hammer. It feels more like, wow, look here. Let's be curious what's going on here with this anger or with this blame, whatever. And then there is an opportunity to explore something and make it conscious. That's really where we're moving towards, right? We need to make the unconscious conscious before we can change it, before we can um, engage new choices. So, yeah, I often have an invitation on my videos to do a little exploration for yourself. Maybe a few of the things I've spoken here, you go like, oh, I wonder if I do that, or what do I say a lot? You can just kind of really be curious about it inside of yourself. And then you can also, if you have a good trusted friend, I've done that many years ago when I was just starting the Hakomi training. And I'm a Hakomi therapist. So, when I was learning, we were really becoming aware of a lot of things that we had no idea we did. And then some of us, we would say, if you notice I do that, would you mind letting me know kindly? Would you just kind of maybe little signs like you did it again or something without blame or shame? That gives me the opportunity to explore it in myself, to see what am I doing here. And then when we find what it is that we do, let's say it's really hard or being angry or blaming, you kind of grab that and you feel into it and you let yourself follow it deeper. That's of course the work we do here. If you want to work with me, then we together explore like what is this behavior? What is driving it? What is behind it unconsciously that makes us do this? And then when we find that, you will always find something um, that needs to be loved. It all comes down to that, where we're not feeling loved. And then we build all these funny fortresses around us that come out as some kind of an attack or protection or whatever it is. But we can go back and we can find that and we can start healing that and finding more softness inside. So, talking about shadow work or our blind spots, right? The things we can't see, those are the ones that need to be seen with love. If you can't do it yourself, reach out. You're welcome to reach out to me. If you can do it yourself, really make sure that you do it kindly and you don't beat yourself up for whatever pattern you have unconsciously been programmed to run. It's very innocent when you start seeing it. It's very innocent. But once you start seeing it, that's when you have a choice. And that's where you can change or disengage the patterns and come back to here and let this guide you instead. Please comment, like, subscribe. Let me know how this is landing for you. And please reach out if you need any kind of support. Have a wonderful day.